But first, coffee. I actually make my coffee myself now, guys. I was forced into coffee purchasing retirement. So I'm trying to perfect my craft and make my coffees at home. It's been successful for the first few days, but I'm sure eventually I'll have to find different like recipes and stuff to follow, or like different ideas that are like dupe or replicas of like Starbucks drinks, because this is a brown sugar shaken espresso replica made with instant espresso, and it's good, but it's definitely not, it's not the real thing, okay?
Alright, watch her go real quick. Alright, she's gonna try to be all proper, all, you know, she real long-winded. I'm gonna try to save her some time, try to speed this up for you. I'm trying to take care of y'all. If she get going. Never know, you know. Never know.
We can do this.
Yeah.
Hey y'all, welcome to our channel, Life with the Mini Miners. This is our very first video.
Yep, just kind of wanted to take the time to, I guess, just give an introduction.
Sit down and chat with y'all.
Basically, just kind of let everybody know who we are, you know, what we're about, where we come from, you know, more values, all that type of stuff. Kind of like a preview, you know, of just our dynamic.
And what our videos are going to be like, because you guys are going to be seeing a lot of us, and that's really exciting. We named our channel Life with the Mini Miners because it's sort of a spin-off of our parents' page.
Yeah, kind of. Not exactly like we'll pick up where they left off.
And we're not going to be doing what they do, essentially, but we're just like the younger version. Our children are young, kind of starting out in life. Careers are still fairly new.
Yeah, you know, I mean, to a degree. And we'll get more into that, you know, as we go throughout the video, but, you know.
My name is Celeste Miner. I am originally from Ohio. My whole entire family is still in Ohio. I'm extremely close to my cousins who are like sisters to me. My family dynamic is definitely different than how my husband grew up, which is beautiful and wonderful because we were able to come together and kind of conjoin two different perspectives of life. And coming from two different backgrounds, it really helps us as we parent. And I worked a few years after I graduated from high school, and eventually I joined the Navy. I was active duty in 2017 until 2022. I really enjoyed my naval career. I was kind of torn when I decided to get out. I wasn't sure how that would be. My husband, who was at the time my boyfriend, very positive with the change, very supportive, very positive with the change. And I decided to pursue my original dream in life, which was to become a nurse. And I just graduated from an accelerated bachelor's program for nursing last month.
Yep. Not even a full month.
Yeah, not even a full month. So really excited to share kind of some of that stuff with you guys. Nursing school was a challenge for our family. It was very, I wouldn't say a challenge, more so for our family. It was challenging for her. It was challenging for her for a variety of aspects. You know, her being a wife, and then being pregnant, and then pregnant twice.
Yeah, twice
while in nursing school.
And then definitely an accomplishment, you know, and I definitely parade that around. You know, I tell it all the time to people.
Yeah.
You know, so it's definitely an accomplishment for her to go through or make it through nursing school, through 2 pregnancies, and just the changes of life, honestly. Yeah. So hats off to her. Yeah. So as for myself, my name is Jonte, obviously Miner. I was born and raised in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I've been there all my life. I was the oldest of 4 siblings. For those who don't know, grew up in a blended family, and we'll get way more in depth in that later on at a different time. But as far as us, we were so like tight, so close knit that we didn't look at it. We never called each other my stepbrother or my stepsister or this is my stepmom. It's always been mom. That's my mama, or that's my brother, that's my sister, and we call and talk to each other to this day, just the same. You can't tell us. Yeah, I kid you not. You can't tell us that we aren't related. That's how we are. That's our dynamic, and that's just what we were. We weren't even forced to do it. That was just what naturally came to us, and that just comes over time, building that bond and building that relationship. So
some people can't even tell that you guys are blended.
Exactly. That's the thing about it. You can't tell, and
it's beautiful.
We're extremely blessed, honestly, because there are a lot of families who cannot, kind of coexist or get along or can't get past that barrier. So I thank God that we were able to do that.
Yes.
And we're able to just kind of have the relationship and dynamic that we do now. So we have 4 siblings. I'm the oldest. My sister's right behind me. Then you have my middle brother and my younger brother. So
little bitty baby dude.
Yeah, little bitty baby dude. So you'll see him at some point in time eventually throughout life. But yeah, I was obviously the best sibling. You know what I'm saying? The oldest, so the oldest is the first. He finished high school and then ended up working for 2 years. And then I eventually went and joined the Navy back in 2013. And so while being in the Navy, I really wanted to be home when I first, or somewhere close to home. So I knew Virginia was probably where I wanted to be because I could drive back home, be close to, family. And God had other plans. So he sent me all the way over to Hawaii. And so I did that for 3 years. And after doing that for 3 years, I went to Virginia. And I was in Virginia. And we home port shifted from Norfolk to Japan. So I was in Sasebo for a few years and then had the experience of living out there and, just seeing the culture, just doing some things out there. And that was definitely an experience. Japan was really nice, so much so to the point to where I tell her all the time, I want to go back. I want to go back and I want to take our kids and just kind of get them out there to see it. Maybe when they get a little older, they can understand what they're looking at. But eventually got stationed down in Jacksonville, Florida, on NAS Jax as an instructor.
We met in the Navy. We were stationed together for about 5-ish years, maybe a little short of 5 years. We didn't even start dating until Jonte had left our command. So we have essentially spent many years becoming very good friends, having a very good relationship with one another. We've seen each other in a lot of different aspects of life.
Yeah, we got to see each other work, got to see each other under pressure, got to see each other stressed, those things. Just
away from home, away from family.
Definitely. And while we were in the Navy, I didn't even say this, but while we were in the Navy, we were both bosun mates.
Yes.
So anybody who knows,
hard work.
Like we running the ship.
So we officially started dating. You had left in September of 2021 from Virginia. We started dating
November
of that year. Yeah. So we were long distance, kind of seeing each other and eventually dating. We were long distance for about 6 months. And I would come and see him in Florida and he would take me back to the airport and I would cry my entire flight all the way back to Virginia. And then long and behold, I decided to get out. So the transition for me was very, very quick. I originally had orders to recruit and I
wanted no part of it.
Wanted nothing. Yeah. At first I thought I did and then I realized that I didn't. And so I had a
good support system.
Yeah, I had a good support system at the time when it came to it, and I decided that I was going to get out. And with that being said, I moved to Florida in 2022, and this is where we've been for almost 4 years now. I started nursing school immediately that January, and like I said, I just finished in May.
And I kid you not, life started moving fast. As soon as she got here, just a little backstory, I knew before she had even moved down here that, I was going to marry her. And finally began to date, and we both began to strengthen our relationship with God. We would FaceTime all the time. We would read Bible. We would read our Bible together, and then we try to, as my dad says, we exegete it, we break it down, try to, what does this mean to you? And what do you think this means? And then when we both didn't know what it meant, we would call my dad and be like, hey, what does this mean? And
a lot of three-way calls.
No, seriously, and it'd be for hours. And God bless him, because he would stay on the phone with us for hours. And explain what it is that we were reading so we could better understand, and then we could eventually pour out, you know, the knowledge that we have to other people to let them know, like, hey, this is what this means. Or,
and the growth has been exceptional, I think,
definitely,
honestly, for both of us.
That we both strengthen each other's relationship and our knowledge, you know, in Christ.
Yeah.
And so that was that's what made us so connected and so strong during the long distance, because a lot of people can't handle long distance as well.
It was hard,
you know,
but
being you know, hours and hours away from each other. But we would talk every night, and we would read our Bibles together, and we would, you know, have my dad explain it to us, you know, just better explain it to us so we understood what we were reading. And she ended up, like she said, she moved down here in February 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, life started moving fast. You know, I ended up marrying her that same year in September. And the only reason it was that long of a wait is because she chose the date of September.
I did.
So, but yeah, ended up getting married in September. And not long after that, our son was born. And you guys will see more and more of him, you know, as we go throughout this, because he is in that stage of life where he is 2, and he's talking, and
he does not stop talking.
Yeah, and he's growing, and you know, he's on top of stuff. So
he's jumping, and he's throwing balls, and he is trying to break things and trying to break himself.
You guys will see him more.
He gets a lot of boo-boos and a lot of band-aids.
And
then we decided, just as fast as we decided everything else in life, we decided that we wanted to have our second baby.
Right, and that's something else to talk about, because we both came into our relationship and into our marriage knowing we wanted big families.
Yes,
we wanted a big family, and that's still the goal.
What was my original number?
Her original number was 7.
7. I want 7. Wanted.
Yeah,
7 children.
It's crazy what 2 can do to you. Hey, two can change your mind real fast. But she wanted 7, and I was on board for it. I told her I was on board for it as long as we could financially support, you know, that many kids. You know, like, she wanted 7, and I was like, I'm all for it, and we can do 7 financially. We can support them, and they're fine. They can make it through life, and we can make it through life. You know, then I'm fine with that. You know, I just truly believe in, you know, giving my wife the things that she desires in life. And so. Yeah, 7 was the number that she wanted.
Until
we would tell people, actually. We would tell people, would ask, oh, how many kids do you guys want? We'd say 7. And I'll tell you, they start batting them eyes.
People be like,
what in the world did you just say? You know, so, but.
They're like, okay.
Like I said, it's funny what 2 would do to you. Because 2.
Because Miss Juliana came in.
She shook it up.
She shook it up.
She was. We thought we had a plan. We said, hey, when we come in, we did this with Junie. This is what we did. And when she comes in, we're gonna do this, and
Little
she came
Mama
out.
has a way.
She came out and said, none of that, none of that. We're gonna do it this way. So
Junie is 2.5, and Juliana is actually 6 months old now.
Yeah. So when she was born, he wasn't 2 yet. So we definitely got that 2 under 2. It's been beautiful. You know, it's been what it's supposed to be. Chaotic, beautiful. You know, it's been memorable, and that's just what it's supposed to be. Parenthood is supposed to be rough, because, like I tell her all the time, I tell my wife, I was like, they're learning. You know, just like everybody says they're learning, and be patient with the kids. The same thing applies for us. We've never had kids, you know, but we're adults. We're expected to be more patient and have more control of our emotions. So, you know, I expressed to her, we're learning as well. So when you are frustrated, and when you are, you know,
and we try not to be.
Yeah, and we're very good at reading each other.
But our village is far. We have a village. Don't get me wrong. We have a village. They are far, but they are mighty. So we are here technically alone. We have friends. We just don't have family. So alone in a way, but still surrounded with love. Just different when you don't have your mom and dad, or like Nana and Papa, or you don't have your siblings around you. It's hard. It's different, and we definitely are ready to be closer.
Definitely.
We can't wait to be closer. We would love to be able to just go and spend time with them every weekend, whenever we can. The kids really, Junie asked about his cousin, I think maybe 10 to 15 times a day. So he brings us back to why we really wanted to start this channel, because our children are so young right now, and we want them to see and experience us as we were raising them while we're young, because we're in our late 20s, early 30s, and they won't remember this time. And
it's also like my wife was saying, she wants to create that digital footprint for our kids. But like I told her, I was like, phones get lost. You know, you get signed out of apps and you can't sign back in, and you know, sometimes people lose things and you can't retrieve it. And so she brought up a really good idea, and her idea was like, let's just video those memories for our children so that they can one day come back and look to see what was it like when you guys were raising us for the first time.
I watch Mom's channel all the time, just watching videos, old videos, new videos of her in the kitchen, and just her and Dad as they have not even aged, because they don't age, but
they look good for their age.
Yes. But you've seen Steven definitely grow up in some of those videos, and I find it amazing, and I would love to be able to do that for my children. So that is definitely the biggest reason we are starting Life with the Mini Minors.
And what's crazy is we have so many videos saved in our phones from, like I said, just the stuff that they do. That's just what we do. You know, we'll sit here and, you know, he's wearing my shoes one day. I'm like, what in the world? You know, but for me, it's funny to me. So I'm like, you know what? I record this because I want to look back at it later. So you guys also see a lot of older videos that we've taken.
We definitely want to share, like little Junie.
Yeah, little when he was
little, just
walking and, you know, just moving, and he was into everything. You know, still is, but when he first started. So, you know, and even that, even like for instance, like we have a dog. We have a European Doberman. His name is Deuce. Deuce is 3 years old, and you know, Junie interacts with him. You know, Junie wants to go pet him, he wants to touch him, and he wants to wash him, and he wants to, you know, sometimes try to ride him. You know, and I tell him, hey, don't get on top of Deuce. Stay on with Deuce.
Listen, he is a big, gigantic horse. He is a big dog. He trots around here and just
like a horse,
like he's definitely a horse dog.
Right. And with that being said, I'm very protective of just my family in general. And Deuce is a part of our family, you know, but I understand, you know, animals have a certain nature about themselves, and sometimes they don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be petted or stepped on or stepped around or whatever. So I'm very protective about my family in general, but especially our children, because children don't know. They don't know that they're doing something that hurts. They don't know if they're invading, you know, the dog's privacy or something like that. So I'm very protective, and I'm very watchful.
Aware.
Yeah, very aware, very watchful.
And we teach Junie just like we teach Deuce.
Right.
So as Deuce is learning to grow up with the kids are learning to respect Deuce's boundaries. And you will see a lot of him and Jonte and Junie interact. He goes on runs with us. He's been through school, so you guys will see that he has a lot of training commands. He has a job in our home. He is the second line of defense. Security, that's what I call him. He's like our second line of defense. So Dad first, and then Deuce.
Yeah, and I always wanted a Doberman. I always wanted a Doberman. I thought that they looked very, you know, just, I guess you could say they looked very scary. Yeah, very scary looking dogs, you know. And I always wanted it. And so Deuce, you know, if anybody knows anything about Dobermans, he does not know he's a big dog. He thinks he's a lap dog, and he's not. He always wants to be on you, always wants to be touched. So he's perfect, you know, for the family, because he genuinely wants to be around us and the kids, and he wants to, you know, be petted, and he wants to be, you know, touched and stuff like that. So, you know, as Junie's getting older, I'm allowing him to interact with him a little bit more, you know.
As we continue putting videos out, we pray that everyone gets a very realistic version of parenting 2 under 2, or just parenting in general in this time, especially when it comes to the world and
when we grew up.
Yeah,
it's a completely different time. We grew up in the 90s and now, you know. So, you know, we hope, you know, to show you guys a very realistic experience of life, just in general. 2 adults with 2 kids, and a dog, you know, building that relationship with each other, you know, leaning on each other a lot of the times, you know, whether it be spiritually or whether it literally physically leaning on each other, you know, just playing around and creating that family experience.
There's gonna be a lot of laughs. You'll probably see so many milestones for our children. A lot of cleaning, a lot of doing, a lot of moving.
I kid you not, we clean it one day. We clean it one day, and then the very next day it's a mess.
Clean it again.
It's a mess. So
we love to be home. And I think that's one thing about our family dynamic is we don't mind being home. We enjoy our home. We enjoy being home with one another and just spending real quality time together.
We want to share those experiences with you guys, and not just for you guys again, but we want to share those experiences to show people that, you know, there's somebody else going through the same thing that I'm going through. There's somebody else who's
Parenting
going
is
through
hard.
something that I'm about to go through. So we'll do that, and we'll, keep videos coming in.
We know we're moving.
Yeah, we have that coming up at some point in
Yeah,
time. We don't know
some
when,
point in
but we know
time.
that it will be happening soon. Because like we said, we really do want to be back, close to family. That's always the goal, to get back to towards family, because I want my kids to be able to experience that relationship, with their grandparents. Same as myself and my wife. We really want to be around. Our parents want to be around mom and dad,
them,
and our siblings as well.
They are. If you ever see it, you'll see probably a lot of conversations that we have with them. I feel like we speak to them all the time, every day, multiple times a day. We are blessed in that aspect. Jonte's family is incredible, and it doesn't take away from how much I love my family. It is just an additive aspect of my life that I get to have such amazing mother in love, father in love, siblings in love, and we've just combined our families so well. It's almost perfect.
Yeah, because and even from that aspect, for me, as far as her family, I bonded extremely closely with her family, her sisters. So time will come, you guys will see them at some point in time when they come down, and we get around them. Yeah, because her nieces and nephews, I absolutely love them. I talk to them on the phone myself, and
they call him more than they call me.
It is what it is. I call them and I check up on them and see how they're doing, and
he does.
What are you doing? What
He's
are
a
you
very
eating?
good uncle.
Yeah. So, and they call me a lot about stuff. What's important to them? Soccer. What cleats should I wear? What celebration should I do?
Boys.
We're not talking about boys. We ain't talking about that right now. So, we're not doing that. we gonna focus on, moving up through school and getting the grades that we need to get, and just carrying ourselves, in a nice way and things like that. So, as for myself and my family dynamic, for those who do know, my dad is a pastor. So I grew up very close in the church. And growing up and being able to see God move as a kid, you don't really get to appreciate it. You don't really appreciate it because you're too young. You're just kind of like, what's going on? My parents always make the joke, we were eating dinner and it was fish sticks and pizza bagels and French fries and Hot Pockets, and, me and my, brothers and sisters, we were like, this is it. This is life. We love this.
Best thing ever.
Like, yeah, God, there you go. But for my parents, and from a parental aspect, that like, I want to feed my kids something with some substance. So my wife's always,
that is my word. I want to make something with some substance.
But they want to feed us, those things, those meals that gives us all the proteins and the carbs that we need and things of that such,
A good home cooked meal.
Basically, yeah, because anybody knows my mama, she loves to cook. She's going to cook. She can cook. Every time she's here, she cooks. Every time we go home, she cooks. So, she wants to cook for us. And like I said, just seeing God move at a young age, you don't really appreciate it because you don't really know what's going on. But as you get older and then you think back on things in life and you see things and hear stories, you're like, God was definitely moving. And that's just another aspect of life for me. Like, I couldn't live off my mom and dad's faith for forever. While I was in their house, definitely. But as soon as I got out of the house and I went out into the world, my faith had to become my faith. Yeah. And so my faith was strengthened only through, my own testimonies of what I can say. Nobody can take that away from me. What I can say God has done for me, right. How I've seen him move in my life, and it's become this unshakable, faith that I had.
I wasn't raised nearly the same. My walk with Christ is fairly new, within the past 5 years, fairly new. And my family is still working towards their walks, all individually, which is such a beautiful thing for Jonte and I to watch and be a part of.
You see how God works because, Celeste, like she said, she's fairly new with her walk with Christ and, being saved, about 5 years or so. And it's like, it started with her, and then she was a catalyst for her family, her siblings. And it's like everybody, she talks about it and she speaks to them about it, and she quotes things, and then they hear it and they're like, okay. But it's one thing to hear it, but another thing to see it, because you see the way we live life and the way we're going about it, and how there's a legitimate change, and so they're like, something is different, she's not just saying something's different, something is different. So to see God's hand move, and now, like I said, from an older standpoint of life, where I'm like, God is definitely moving. So
and it's beautiful and it's wonderful to have a to have Pastor on speed dial. I know that is a privilege in itself because a lot of people don't get the opportunity to sit down and break down the word as they're reading it and be able just to call and be like, hey, you know, I don't understand this. I don't know what this means. Can you explain it better? And that has genuinely shaped my walk tremendously. I feel like a lot of people don't feel like they can read or understand their reading, and that's what stops them. That's what prevents them.
And
Here he comes.
there it is.
Supposed to be napping.
Come here. Come here. Say hello. Say hello.
Hi, Mama.
No, not to
No,
mama.
say hi.
Say hello.
Hi.
Say, I'm supposed to be napping.
I can nothing.
Because
He's
he knows.
potty training, and he knows that if he tells us he has to potty, he can get up.
Looking at me and smiling is crazy.
Looking up, we tried our best to make this introduction video during nap time today so that we could get it done and spend some time with you guys. We have to tend to the baby.
Little mama.
And for
Duty
us
calls.
to
Duty
do
calls.
our afternoon routines and all of the things. So we wanted to thank you guys so much for spending time with us and watching our introduction video. We appreciate it.